The morning sun cast long shadows across Maple Street as Jake wiped his hands on an old rag, the familiar scent of motor oil and coffee filling his small garage. He had opened Thompson's Auto Repair 3 years ago, after his life had taken an unexpected turn. The business was modest, but it paid the bills and allowed him to be his own boss, which meant he could pick up his daughter Emma from school every day at 3:30 sharp. Jake was a man of simple pleasures. At 32, he had learned that life's greatest joys often came in small packages, Emma's laughter echoing through their little house, the satisfaction of fixing something that seemed beyond repair, or the quiet moments they shared over pancakes on Sunday mornings. His dark hair showed the first hints of gray at the temples, a testament to the challenges of single parenthood, but his green eyes still held the warmth that had once made Sarah fall in love with him. Sarah. Even now, 2 years after the divorce, her name could still catch in his throat. They had tried to make it work, really tried, but sometimes love isn't enough when two people want different things from life. She had dreams of the big city, of corporate success and cocktail parties. He dreamed of small-town stability, of being present for his daughter's childhood. In the end, Sarah had chosen her career in Chicago, visiting Emma every other weekend and calling on Wednesday nights. The familiar jingle of the bell above his shop door pulled Jake from his thoughts. He looked up to see a woman standing in the doorway, backlit by the morning sun. She was tall and graceful, with blonde hair that caught the light like spun gold. Behind her, a small girl peered around her legs, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. "Excuse me," the woman said, her voice carrying a slight tremor of anxiety. "I'm so sorry to bother you, but my car broke down just outside. I was wondering if you might take a look at it." Jake set down his tools and walked toward them, wiping his hands on his coveralls. The little girl couldn't have been more than 6 or 7, with wide blue eyes that seemed to take in everything around her. There was something about her that reminded him of Emma. Perhaps it was the way she held her stuffed animal close, or the quiet intensity with which she observed the world. "Of course," Jake said, his voice gentle. "I'm Jake Thompson. This is my shop. What seems to be the problem?" The woman's shoulders sagged with relief. "I'm Lisa Martinez, and this is my daughter Sophie. We were driving through town when the car just died. Right there on the corner." She pointed through the window to where a blue sedan sat motionless beside the curb. Jake nodded, already reaching for his keys. "Let me grab my tools and take a look. These things happen, especially with the heat we've been having." As they walked toward the car, Lisa explained that they were moving to Riverside, the next town over, where she had accepted a teaching position at the elementary school. Sophie remained silent, but Jake noticed how she stayed close to her mother, one small hand gripped tight around the stuffed rabbit's ear. The car's hood released with a heavy clunk, and Jake immediately spotted the problem. The serpentine belt had snapped, leaving frayed ends dangling near the engine block. He ran his fingers along the remaining belt, checking for wear on the other components. "Well, the good news is it's fixable," he announced, straightening up. "Bad news is you'll need a new serpentine belt. The part itself isn't expensive, but..." Lisa's face fell before he could finish. She clutched her purse tighter, and Jake caught the worry that flashed across her features. "How much do you think it will cost? For the part and labor?" Jake considered for a moment. He could see the careful way she held herself, the slight wear at the edges of her clothing that spoke of someone stretching every dollar. Moving to a new town, starting a new job, raising a child alone, he recognized the signs because he had lived them himself. "Tell you what," he said, closing the hood gently. "I've got a belt that'll fit in my shop. Consider it a welcome to the area gift. Moving's expensive enough without surprise car troubles." Lisa's eyes widened. "Oh no, I couldn't possibly." "Please," Jake interrupted, his voice warm but firm. "I insist. It'll take me maybe 20 minutes to install it. Why don't you and Sophie wait in the shop? There's a soda machine and some chairs by the window." While Lisa continued to protest weakly, Sophie tugged on Jake's coveralls. He crouched down to her level, bringing them eye to eye. Up close, he could see that her stuffed rabbit had been well loved, with patches where the fur had worn thin and one ear that had been carefully resewn. "What's your rabbit's name?" Jake asked softly. Sophie's voice was barely above a whisper. "Mr. Hoppers. He's been with me since I was little." "That's a good name. I bet Mr. Hoppers has seen a lot of adventures with you." For the first time, Sophie smiled, a small, tentative thing that transformed her whole face. She nodded, then leaned closer to Jake. Her next words were so quiet he had to strain to hear them. My mom's been really sad lately. She tries to hide it, but I can tell. She cries sometimes when she thinks I'm sleeping. Jake's heart clenched. He glanced up at Lisa, who was looking out at the street, probably calculating costs and worrying about being late for whatever appointment awaited them in Riverside. Moving to a new place can be scary, Jake said to Sophie, his voice gentle. But I bet your mom is brave. Really brave. And I bet she's doing everything she can to make sure you're both going to be happy in your new home. Sophie nodded solemnly. Then, in a voice so small Jake almost missed it, she whispered something that made him freeze. She's my mom, please marry her. The words hung in the air between them like a prayer, innocent and heartbreaking in their simplicity. Sophie's blue eyes were wide and serious, as if she had just shared the most important secret in the world. Jake's throat tightened. He thought of Emma, of all the times she had asked why mommy lived so far away, why daddy ate dinner alone after she went to bed. Children saw things adults tried to hide. They felt the weight of their parents' loneliness even when no words were spoken. Sophie, he said carefully, that's not really how these things work. People can't just get married because someone asks them to. They have to fall in love first, and that takes time. Sophie considered this gravely. But you're nice, she said, as if that settled everything. And you fixed our car for free. That means you have a good heart. Before Jake could respond, Lisa's voice called out from behind him. Sophie, what are you two talking about over there? Just getting acquainted, Jake called back, standing up slowly. He looked down at Sophie, who was now hugging Mr. Hoppers tightly against her chest. Can you keep me company while I fix your mom's car? I work better when I have a good helper. Sophie nodded eagerly, and for the next 20 minutes, she sat on an overturned bucket nearby, chattering softly to Mr. Hoppers while Jake worked. She told him about their old apartment, about how they had to leave because the rent went up and mommy couldn't afford it anymore. She talked about starting a new school, about being nervous but excited too. Will there be other kids to play with? She asked as Jake tightened the last bolt. I'm sure there will be, Jake said. And you know what? My daughter Emma goes to school in Riverside too. She's about your age. Maybe you'll meet her. Sophie's eyes lit up. Really? What's she like? Well, she's got curly brown hair that never wants to stay in ponytails, and she loves to read stories about dragons. She's also really good at making new friends. Jake wiped his hands on his rag and lowered the hood. There we go. Good as new. Lisa appeared at his elbow as if summoned by his words. Are you sure I can't pay you something? This is incredibly generous, and Mrs. Martinez, Jake interrupted gently, sometimes we all need a helping hand. Today it's your turn to receive one. Tomorrow, when you're settled and happy, maybe you'll have a chance to help someone else. That's how it works in places like this. Lisa's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Say you'll drive carefully and that you'll think of Millbrook fondly when you're all settled in Riverside. Sophie had been watching this exchange with the intensity children brought to adult conversations they didn't quite understand but sensed were important. As her mother walked around to the driver's side of the car, Sophie hung back. Mr. Jake, she said, tugging on his coveralls again. Yes, sweetheart. She stood on her tiptoes and motioned for him to lean down. When he did, she cupped her small hands around his ear and whispered, I still think you should marry my mom. She makes really good pancakes. Jake couldn't help but chuckle. I'll keep that in mind, he whispered back. And Sophie, you take good care of your mom, okay? And Mr. Hoppers too. Sophie nodded solemnly and climbed into the passenger seat. As Lisa started the engine, which turned over smoothly now, she rolled down her window. Mr. Thompson, she called out. If you're ever in Riverside, please stop by the elementary school. I'd love to repay your kindness somehow. Maybe Emma would like to meet Sophie officially. Jake waved as they drove away, watching until the blue sedan disappeared around the corner. The morning sun had climbed higher now, warming his face as he stood in the empty street. That evening, as Jake helped Emma with her homework at their kitchen table, she looked up from her math worksheet with a thoughtful expression. Daddy, Mrs. Henderson at school said there's going to be a new teacher in Riverside. Someone with a little girl my age. Jake's pen paused over the bills he was reviewing. Is that so? Uh-huh. Do you think we might meet them sometime? I like meeting new kids. Jake smiled, thinking of Sophie's whispered words and Lisa's grateful tears. You know what, Em? I think we just might. Outside their window, the stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky, and somewhere in Riverside, another single parent was probably tucking a little girl into bed, reading her a story, and hoping that tomorrow would bring new friends and new beginnings. Sometimes, Jake thought as he kissed Emma goodnight, the most important connections happen in the most unexpected moments. And sometimes, a simple act of kindness opens doors you never knew were there, leading to possibilities as vast and bright as the star-filled sky above.